Top 5 G5 coaches who've earned a shot at the P5. Some of these should not be a surprise to you guys, but went through it. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the top 5 FCS coaches who deserve a look because there's some young, up-and-coming guys. We'll call it the Kalen DeBoer, Chris Kleiman list tomorrow. That you might want to, if you're looking for a coach, you might want to kick the tires on these guys. But today, and a lot of these guys will probably get a bump up here in the next couple weeks, but some of them may or may not. One of them's been on pretty much all these lists for the last 2 years. Number 5 was on a list just last week. John Sumrall at Troy. I know that Mississippi State coach search appears to be zeroing in on one guy, but if you are a team, especially in the Southeast, that might have an opening, John Sumrall, intense defense. He's going to bring some excitement, some fire. 2-year program. He has earned his shot at the Power 5.
Yeah, I mentioned him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a really good run there at Troy, and yeah, I can see where some people will be knocking on his door, especially with, as you said, a job open like a Mississippi State, for example. But good run with the Trojans. I don't know about the timing of when guys are deserving as you're going to lay out here, but certainly among the candidates of what is really a lackluster coaching carousel, quite frankly, then he is definitely cemented himself as one of the top, up and coming names to start to identify and target, and perhaps in some case hire. So yeah, absolutely.
And just to say, Barry Odom's not on this list because he was already in these are all guys who have not been P5 head coaches yet. Number 4, Chuck Martin has been in the P5 as a coordinator, most recently at Notre Dame a couple years ago, but he has got Miami of Ohio rolling. Been good for the last couple of years, and curious to see if he gets a shot, especially at maybe one of those Big Ten jobs that might open. Like if I'm Indiana and they let go of Tom Allen, Chuck Martin might be a name I would look at for that. I'm not sure if he's big enough for Michigan State, although they'd be crazy not to at least interview him. And then some of this is, I know that you've got to sell to your alumni that he hasn't done it at this level, but man, you could be like the NHL was the worst about recycling coaches for the longest time. And then you would look at teams they haven't won a Stanley Cup in 38 years. Garrett, this is a hockey fan. Mm-hmm. And then you look at their coaches and they just recycle coaches and they don't go get new ideas or new things to do that. And that's why you have sometimes great franchises, great schools, or schools with a lot of potential because they're just not creative. So go look at a guy like Chuck Martin, see what he can do for you.
Yeah, I won't pretend to know a ton of the ins and outs about him. I know he's been in Miami of Ohio for a long time now. They're having a really good year. I think they've been kind of middle of the road in recent years, but, make a bowl game on occasion. And he's certainly been there a long time at this point, so I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps he was, looking around for something new and a bigger challenge, which could come from any number of open jobs that are out there right now. So, yeah, a guy who's definitely got a lot of skin in the game, and the experience at Notre Dame that you mentioned as well has won some titles, and so, yeah.
Number 3, Jason Candle at Toledo. I do think that he will be a P5 coach out of this cycle, probably in the Big Ten, but it wouldn't surprise me somewhere else if there's someone that comes out of the woodwork. They're a machine at Toledo. They win. He's from the Matt Campbell tree, which leads me to think that more of that Midwestern style kind of fits where he would be, but it doesn't mean that it can't work other places. And he would also be a guy, say A&M hires another P5 coach, right? And so they get, I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't think it's going to happen, but they hire Lance Leipold and Kansas is open. That would be another spot where, I think Jason Candle would fit. I don't think that's going to happen, but he's someone who needs a shot at the P5 because he's done really good work at Toledo. I'm kind of surprised he didn't get a bigger job in the last cycle, but maybe he wasn't offered one that was good enough for him.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, who knows anybody's given circumstances on any given cycle. But, yeah, I mean, not young, I mean 44 years old, I think is what I saw earlier. So has got some skin in the game, as you as you pointed out there. They're 9-1 this year. Mm-hmm. And, we heard a lot about him last time around. So, it seems like a year further into the game, a really good team, good offense, Mount Union background. That usually works out well for a lot of guys that come from that coaching hotbed. And so, a name that I think has been most linked to Michigan State here as of late. I saw something earlier today about, they had narrowed down their choices, and you just don't ever know, like looking at half these reports, like it's so hard to tell what's actually factual anymore. I saw somebody like blatantly lying about something and then laughing about the fact they were lying at something just because it got a number of impressions. And so I think what I saw was legitimate, and it would make sense that it was. But he's a guy who's done really well and has been rumored for a while now, so I wouldn't be surprised if the time has finally come.
Number 2, shouldn't be a surprise that he's on this list, Jamey Chadwell, and maybe about to get that at Mississippi State. They appear to have zeroed in on him, and he's got a good financial thing going at Liberty. They're winning at Liberty, but can we please get this dude with an innovative offense, with a great attitude, like the kind of coach that is going to succeed? Jamey Chadwell, in the modern space, Jamey Chadwell is going to do really well when you give him resources. And I think he's proven that by maintaining what Hugh Freeze was doing at Liberty. They have their resources there. Give him more. Get him out in the spotlight. He will do well. Mississippi State would make a great decision if they hired Jamey Chadwell, who just wins, man, and he does it with a smile on his face, and he's the Scott Drew of college football coaches, and I want him to be in the Power 5 so badly.
I reached out to Liberty to get him on the show about a month or so ago. Did not hear back from them. I said, no, I take that back. They said, we'll check it out, but he wasn't made available, but we've enjoyed having him on the show.
Liberty just doesn't play anybody, man. They just don't play anybody worth of salt. That's not. There's some games on their roster that I guess are competitive, but Caden Salter has been phenomenal for them this year. Obviously, he did his thing pretty well. Jamey Chadwell, that is at Coastal Carolina, and now doing that as well at Liberty. But who doesn't win at Liberty? Mm-hmm. That's a spot where if you're trying to, I guess, clean your record like Hugh Freeze and do some rehab, or you're trying to boost yourself to the Power 5 or to a Power 5, then that's a good spot. It's just an interesting coaching job because of all the money that's pouring in there. It's got a little bit of a stigma attached, obviously, with its background, but man, they're undefeated. Like, do y'all realize that? And Caden Salter's smoking folks.
Liberty?
They're obviously not in the conversation because they don't have a strength of schedule worth comparing to anybody else that's in the mix. But no, he's done a really good job there. That's a nice gig, like I said, for a rehab project or just a jump up a level. And they've got a good thing going there for the Flames. But I know you're a big fan of his. I think a lot of people were clamoring for him to get a look last year and thought that he would. It ended up at Liberty as opposed to one of the bigger jobs. But it seems like he's bound for it sooner rather than later.
And number 1. Stop interviewing other people, Texas A&M. Jeff Traylor. I know that we can be a little bit biased because he's a very good friend of the show, but I think when Garrett and I were doing we were talking about it the other day. I guess maybe on the post-game show. Yeah. Somebody threw it out, can Baylor get Jeff Traylor? And I was like, look, if he's going to go, if A&M's involved, they would kind of have to hope that A&M didn't want him because they can't win the press conference that way, or that he blew the interview. And I can promise you, of any of the reasons that Jeff Traylor would not get the A&M job, it's not going to be because he blew a job interview. I promise you, that was one of the best job interviews in the history of job interviews of what I know about Jeff Traylor. I think, in my opinion, if I'm on the search committee, I'm like, guys, we've got to quit drilling. We hit oil. Let's just go.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, he would also win the press conference.
Yes,
he would. He gets it. I watched his entire game Friday night. I had no high school game. I watched the entire game. They were down early to USF. That team that he has and those players play so hard. And listen, they got a lot of cast-offs. Frank Karras is ridiculously good, but my goodness, do they play hard. And you don't see him always, he has headsets on, but you don't see him talking on them a lot. But I wish him the best. If the Baylor job comes open, if he's not somebody that's interviewed, I'll be shocked by that too.
Yeah, I think that'd be a huge missed opportunity, and the only way that should happen would be just if he's not interested. But I think any other way, if that didn't happen and that job's open, then that'd be just a total whiff on the part of Baylor. But, I mean, he's obviously got bigger opportunities potentially if A&M does look his direction and go forth with that. But he's a really good coach. I mean, I think he would do well at A&M. You never know for sure. I mean, everything sounds and looks and smells and everything good, but you just don't know until you get into it. But I don't know how they could possibly come across anybody more better suited unless there's just a thing that they're looking for that we're not fully aware of out in the public, right? Yeah. Because other than that, he checks a lot of boxes. He's been in the SEC, he knows Texas, blah, blah, blah. He's been around all these various programs and been coaching as a head coach for a long time now, having great success. So, yeah, I think he gets the best out of his players. Like you said, they play hard. That's the thing, like when I was talking about Texas Tech earlier, is like they're not necessarily always the most talented, although they're going to boost that with their recruiting classes. They're getting guys like Micah Hudson, but they just play hard to make like that one extra play, like a missed extra point that turns into you winning and turning barely making a bowl game into like an 8 or 9 win season, right? And so I get a lot of the same feel there, and it would make sense. I mean, obviously they're running the same circles. Jeff Traylor loves Matt Rule. There was a point in time where Matt Rule wanted him on staff at Baylor a few years back, and it just didn't work out.
Was on the sideline the day he was introduced watching a high school game at McLean Stadium.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're all fans. Think he would kill it there, and obviously he's about as primed as you can be. I think he's about tapped out what he can do at UTSA with all due respect to them. But it's clear that just some of the frustrations that he has are only going to really be met at another level where NIL is not every day you have to hack away at it type of a problem. At A&M, that would be like hitting the lottery. So, yeah, I think he's definitely primed.
Well, he has handled the